Yesterday, we looked at Ruth 1, where Ruth made a decision that changed everything. She chose to stay. She chose God even when it cost her everything. Today, in Ruth 2, we're going to see what happens after that decision. Because a lot of us honestly want to know what happens after we choose God. Does everything just fall in place, or is there a process? So let's look back at Ruth 1 from yesterday. We learned Ruth was a Moabite. That means she grew up outside of God's covenant people. When she married into Naomi's family, she was introduced to the God of Israel. But in Ruth 1, Ruth had to make a choice. She could either stay in the covenant or she could go back to what was familiar. And she says this, your God will be my God. That wasn't just loyalty to Naomi, that was conversion. You see, she chose God over her old beliefs, covenant over comfort, and the unknown over the familiar. And that decision is what sets up everything we're going to read about today. When we get into Ruth 2, we see that Ruth goes out into the fields to glean. And that's important because gleaning wasn't random. It was actually part of God's law. You see, in the Torah, God commanded landowners, don't harvest everything. Leave the very edges of your field. Don't pick up what falls. Why? So that the poor, the widows, the foreigners could come behind and gather what was left. So gleaning was God's built-in system of provision for the marginalized. It wasn't charity, it was dignity. Ruth wasn't begging, she was working, and she was working hard. That matters. It just so happened. We read in the text that it just so happened she ended up in the field of Boaz. Now, when we read that, we think coincidence. But in Scripture, that's not coincidence. That's providence. You see, Ruth is just being faithful. She's not trying to meet Boaz. She's not chasing favor. She's just doing what she can with what she has. And God is positioning her. Boaz is introduced as a wealthy, prominent relative of Naomi's family, which means he's connected to her past. But Ruth doesn't know that yet. She doesn't know who he is. And when he sees Ruth, he asks, who is this girl? And they say, that's the Moabite woman who came back with Naomi. So right away, she's identified as an outsider, a foreigner. She doesn't belong. But then Boaz does something that doesn't make sense, something powerful. He calls her my daughter. Now, biologically, she's not his daughter. So, what does that mean? In that culture, that language communicates protection, covering, acceptance. He's saying, you are under my care now. And this is important because Ruth came in as a foreigner, but she's being received as family. Boaz tells the men to drop a little extra. So he's going a little further and he's letting her glean behind his workers. And he's telling them, don't stop her, let her glean. And I want you to actually pull out a little bit more for her. He's going beyond the law. The law says leave the edges. Boaz gives her more than she's entitled to. That's not obligation, that's favor. He's making sure that she has enough. She's protected and she's not being humiliated. And this is huge for the story because Ruth walked in just hoping to survive, and God provided beyond survival. Ruth is confused. She's like, what? Why are you doing this for me? I'm a foreigner. She doesn't feel like she belongs. She feels like the outsider. She doesn't feel qualified. Boaz responds and he says, I've heard everything you've done and you've come under the wings of God. Don't miss that. He connects her favor to her faithfulness. Under the wings of God. That phrase. You've come under the wings of God. You've come for refuge. That's covenant language. It means she's placed herself under God's protection. She has aligned herself with his people. She may not be born into it, but she belongs because she has chosen it. Think about it. This really hits us today because a lot of us are in Ruth's position. We're showing up, doing what we can, we're being faithful, and it feels like no one sees it. But Ruth reminds us God sees the unseen. She didn't chase favor, she didn't try to force anything. She stayed faithful. And then God positioned her in the right place at the right time. And maybe that's where you are. You don't feel like you belong. You don't feel qualified. You don't see the full picture yet. But here's the truth: when you come under God's covering, He knows how to provide, protect, and position you. Ruth walked into that field just trying to survive. She walked out, provided for, protected, and positioned for what was next. And she didn't even know it yet. And that's what I want us to hold on to today. Faithfulness in the unseen leads to favor you didn't have to chase.